So, your professor gave you an assignment to do a research paper. They had you watch these 4 video clips up from the Chadron State College Library that all tried to show you some skills for using the library resources and the databases to find information. But you're still kind of confused because you don't know exactly what the professor wants or what to do specifically for your education research paper. That's what this screencast is going to help you do. We're about to do what's called a worked example in education. I'm about to demonstrate how to find some research material that potentially might be useful for this research project. So let's begin. The way we usually start papers or research projects is figuring out first, what is it that we need to know? What is the objective of the paper? What is the professor trying to get across to us? If you don't understand that, you probably shouldn't go any further than this step. The second thing we need to know is there some kind of limits, or did the professor define the topic? Are they asking us to look at a particular thing? In this case, we're going to go with the example that a professor is asking us to look at some kind of historical perspective of something in education. So when I think of historical paper, I think of timeline. Something has happened in the past, that's clearly important, and something's happening today or has led to something today. And then I probably need to talk about a few things that happened in the middle. To me, that's at least the beginning of what an historical paper is going to have to define. So now that I have roughly an idea of that, I have to think about what is it I'm going to do the research on. I'm assuming I know the research parameters for my professor. So since I know what they are, I'm going to go with something that interests me. And right now, what I'm really interested in is multicultural education. Recent events in the United States has clearly changed the way that we should be looking at multicultural education in our school systems. Things along social justice and along those lines have me interested. So I think I'm going to pick that since it fits within the parameters of what the professor is asking me to do. So now what's the next step? Probably to start to actually do some research to see what's available in the library and see if we can fill in some of this information on this timeline. So here we are already in the Library Learning Commons, and I'm totally assuming you've already watched the 4 videos on doing this research, because if you haven't, this is going to go fast and you're going to get lost. Instead of typing in multicultural education, which what I already know will get millions of hits, I'm going to look for something in the past, something that will deal with that timeline. I know that from historical documents, even though I wasn't alive, that the civil rights movement was a big deal back in the 50s and 60s, and that might be a place to start in terms of a historical change. So I'm going to type in there civil rights movement, and I'm going to hit search. What comes up is over 1,600,000 hits. That's way too much. So I'm going to use this advanced search option. Under advanced search, under the subject area, because I want to kind of limit this, I'm going to limit it down to now multicultural education. That brings us down to 3,151 hits. I'm still not going to start scrolling down here because that's way too many things to look through. I'm going to limit the availability to library. So I'm going to click this box right here. That brings me down to 1,300, still too much. The next one I'm going to limit to is academic journals. Hey, now we're down to 486. It's beginning to look like something that I might be able to find some information on that deals with this potential research paper. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So what exactly am I looking for as I scroll through here? I'm looking for titles that might relate to a paper that I'm interested in. Freedom Schools, Then and Now, Creating Our Elders. Are there walls of injustice tumbling down? That kind of catches my attention. It's about a 20-page paper, and it says the full text is available from Eric. Let me click on that. There it is. It's the discussion of multicultural education and teacher preparation. Dates back several decades. Hey, I'm in a teacher preparation program. Historical roots, multicultural. By reading over this quick introduction or abstract, this sounds potentially interesting. Over here on the right, I see download full text. What do you know? Just like that, it's downloaded. Now, this may or may not be a paper I'm going to use for my research topic. I don't know yet. I just found it. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to save it personally. I'm going to click on that guy. I'm going to change this title to the title of the actual paper, Are the Walls of Injustice Tumbling Down? And I'm going to save it in a file called research paper so I can find it later. Let's save that for a while. Let's go back now. So now we came back to where I found that paper. And I'm going to do a little bit more research. So I'm back in the Library Learning Commons where we began, and because this is a very specific example for the education department, I'm going to go down where it says search specialized databases, and down here there's a bunch of databases. You can ask your professors about some of these, but I'll tell you that ERIC is a database that's very common in the educational psychology world. The collections that they have are very well sourced out, and I'm going to do a similar thing. I'm not going to type in multicultural education. Again, I'm going for social justice, because now I'm looking for something that's a little bit more new than the civil rights era. I'm trying to see, again, this trend in terms of history in multicultural education. The very first limiter I'm going to do, since there's 15,129 hits, is I see over here publication date. Well, I'm really interested in what's happened recently, obviously in 2020. And it already limits us down to 566 results. That's an awful lot, but I'm just going to, what's down here? I'm going to kind of scroll around. Framing implicit bias. Leading the social justice, a call of action to improve society. That might be interesting. I don't know. I'm going to limit some more things because that just still seems to be too big at 566. So my next one I'm going to limit to is, over here, educational change. Since I'm looking at a historical document, let's see what it does with change. Now I'm down to 61 results. That's pretty small. That's easy to kind of scroll through and try and find some information. Report on the World Education 10-year anniversary. That might be interesting. The struggle of Lebanese teachers. That might be interesting. Montessori, advanced. You know what? You can keep scrolling if you want. This isn't really helping me too much. I'm going to go for one more limiter after this. I'm going to limit it to elementary and secondary education. Report. There's that same report again. Montessori, advancing a vision of diversity. That could be interesting. It says right here, download full text. Let me take a look at that. Advancing educator preparation programs. Hey, again, that's Chadron State College. Responsibility to prepare professionals. School districts need to make systematic changes. Changes in student enrollment, demographics. I'm scrolling through. Again, at this point, I don't know if this article is good for me or not. I'm just kind of getting an idea here of what they're talking about. Argues another area of relevance is preparing racially conscious educators for education preparation programs. This could be interesting. College of Education efforts. Hey, system changes. Everything tells me that there's probably some teachers of tomorrow. Everything tells me there's something in here that's probably beneficial. I don't know for sure yet. I'm going to go through the same steps. I'm going to download this guy. I'm going to change the title and to its actual title here, and I'm going to put it in my research paper folder. And I'm going to continue on. So let's go back. This time, I'm going to do a different limiter. Instead of where it says right here, elementary and secondary education, okay, this time I'm going to go to, how about teaching attitudes? How about teaching methods? 14 results. Not bad. Montessori education, again, that might be interesting to some of you that are interested in early childhood education, classroom teachers in the community schools movement, a social justice 2020, downloadable. This too has a little interest to me. Classroom teachers, community school movement, social justice. Hey, this looks kind of like a case study where they're actually interviewing teachers in the classroom, understanding the community school concept. John Dewey, boy, that catches my attention too. Once again, I don't know if I'm going to use this article, but it sure looks decent at this moment. I'm going to save it. I'm going to change the title right here to the actual title of the classroom. I'm going to save it in my research paper folder. I'm not quite done just yet. I'm going to do one more just because I don't think I have quite enough information. One more limiter. How about equal education? Since we are talking about social justice, and it gives me 22 results or 22 hits, and I'm going to scroll through here and see what I find. There's that report again. 3 times it's come up. That one just doesn't interest me. Advancing a vision of diversity in the workforce. The starts and stumbles of restorative justice in education. Where do we go from here? 2020, and schools are implementing. I see download full text. I'm going to take a quick scroll. Right off the top, that gets my interest. Eastern, I scroll, I kind of look. Executive summary, looks pretty professional. This has my interest. Introduction, gun-free schools, zero tolerance. Last decade, schools have begun reforming their approach at school discipline. Interesting, discipline reform. I know that has something to do with multicultural issues. Review of the literature. Hey, that might give me more areas to look at different articles. This looks like a gold mine, potentially. I'm going to scroll to the very end for one specific thing. I'm going to look at their reference section. Oh my gosh, look at all those references, notes and references, and direct links. This is definitely something I want to take a closer look at later. So I'm going to download this guy. I'm going to change the title, and I'm going to save it in my research folder. And at this point, this is where I'm going to stop because we've done a worked example in terms of finding research in the library. Between the 4 original videos that were made by the Chadron State College Library and now this specific one that deals with education research in particular, this should give you enough to go by to start your own research project.